This is Sidebar with the former Bexar County DA Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and Georgia Rougeau, scholar, former chemist, and pharmaceutical researcher and director. You know, I got a message on Facebook just, it might have been a few days ago, and someone said that they were having a hard time trying to find where they could become a sponsor. And so I want to repeat that it's really easy. Join us during the show. You can watch live on social media and after the show when we continue the show. And you can find the platform at sidebartv.com. And that's where you can find where you want to watch it, whether it's Facebook or other, places, other platforms. I never ask. Twitter, X. Everything is there. So, and then if you go to sidebartv.com, and I tried it myself, you go to the very bottom of the page, and that's where you'll see a red circle. That's where you can contribute. So please, if you have any questions, and I don't know who monitors Facebook, but there's a bunch of questions that need to be answered. So I'm yelling at people today because we don't want people to take the time
Someone
to ask.
woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
You're not kidding. I never thought coming to work would be my happy place.
Oh.
And this is what it is today.
Charm will get you everywhere.
Well, we have our presumptive candidates for president again.
We do.
I don't think that was a surprise, was it, to anybody? Trump and Biden back at it again?
No, I mean, who knows? All I'm saying is I think we need to get to a place where, and it seems like we were getting there, where we're getting younger candidates. I mean, look, people know my position and where I'm voting for and what we think we need in this season of our country. But I think overall, I think we need to start talking about, again, I know people in their 80s and 85 and 90s, sharp as a tack. But that's not the that's not the norm, unfortunately. We just have to think about that. In Texas, I think 75 is the cutoff to be a district court judge. You're making serious decisions on evidence rulings and pretrial rulings and rulings on trials, on death penalty cases, on life cases, things of this nature. And the Texas legislature has said, hey, 75 is the cutoff to be a district court judge. Now, county court judge, there is no cutoff. So there needs to be a discussion. I mean, the Constitution says you have to be 35 to be president. I think back then 35 was different than 35 today.
Agreed.
Obviously, at 35.
Agreed.
And so the life expectancy was not as long, maybe, but it was just a different mindset. So it's something to think about. I mean, to think that as we have, I think, with Trump 77 and then Biden's 80 or something like that, 81, and then when either one takes office, the age will be. And again, this is not, God willing, when I'm 80, I want to be sharp as a tack. Hopefully, I'm going to do the best I can. But life is life. And this is a stressful job. I can't even imagine what it was. I know what it was being district attorney in a county this big. But being the president of the United States and the stamina you have to have and the mental acuity and just the grit, the endurance, the perseverance. So I don't know. It's something to think about.
No,
so that was the first thing I thought about when you think about, okay, Trump, Biden again. I think a lot of people, I had a friend of mine, the reason why that came up in my head, a friend of mine said, this is the best we have on either side. This is the best we have. 77 and 80. I mean, he was just kind of venting to me. And I said, I think this is a creation of circumstance. If Trump would have done his 2 terms, as he probably should have, and people have different opinions about that, and that's fine. People are entitled to their opinion. And then you have Biden, just being the train wreck that he is, and the ideas of that party, but just Biden himself is ridiculous. I think it just set the stage for this, and then them going after Trump the way they did. This is a conclusion of circumstance to me. I don't think this would be in any other situation. And normally you see a president of the United States candidate that's under so many indictments and this much legal trouble, they'd be out. This is just an anomaly. This is not the way you run for politics, by the way. Just FYI, this is not it.
I think you said a lot of important things, but that last part, I think, is the most important to me. And it begs the question, what other politician right now do you think could withstand the barrage?
None.
That Trump is. It's an honest question. I don't mean to be rhetorical about it. An honest question. For guys that are listening today, text it in. Can you think of anyone right now?
No.
Local, state,
I'll
federal.
answer for them.
Who you think could withstand the barrage that Donald Trump's getting from the deeply anti-American, anti-Semitic left?
Fani
I can't.
Fani Willis could take it.
Oh, just
Yes, of course.
I was thinking
Yes,
if I wanted to let George finish, I was just thinking
Yes.
of her. Did you see what she did on the stand? I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, there's no way she could take even a portion of what Trump was
Exactly.
taking, right?
Well, I mean, she keeps it simple. You just need to have wads of petty cash at home.
I know, but the
Because your
answer,
daddy
I know
taught you
you
that.
are, but what am I? That seems to
where do
be
you-
like the answer.
Where do you start? But yeah, it's a great question, Nico. Yeah, we got to look to the future. Donald Trump, it does seem like he's going to live forever.
Well, he's not. I mean,
But he's not.
He's not.
Right? Because nobody lives forever.
Look, I thought it was interesting. I heard an interview a couple of weeks back or a week ago where Trump was saying, we were asking about his VP. And he said, well, whoever it is, and he was real calm when he said it, needs to be prepared to be president.
I got that.
thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
We all know that the vice president has to be prepared to be president. I thought that was that was him acknowledging his circumstance. I hope there's nothing wrong with him health-wise, because it doesn't seem like it. I mean, he's like the Energizer Bunny, but
He wants a plan for the future.
I mean, he's just thinking, look, I mean, God willing, if he takes office in what, next year, would it be next year, right? 2025? January?
January 25.
I mean, he'd be 78 or whatever it would be. And then, 4 years from there, 82. I mean, look, I mean, you're in realistic territory. Just, if someone reaches 80, that's a long life. Scripture even calls 80 a long life. It's a good life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, you want more, 85, 90, God willing, if you're healthy. But he's just being practical. I just thought it was an interesting statement. I've never heard him say something like that. I've never heard any president say that about a vice president, even though we know practically that what the vice president needs to be able to step in immediately and continue the vision of the president and what the people elected.
Especially, go ahead.
I was going to say, and yeah, from 2016 until now, I think you'd be hard pressed to look at Trump from 2016. What was when he came down the escalator, 2015, and then you look at him now. I think you'd be hard pressed to say that the energy level has gone down.
No, I agree.
I mean, it's been a straight line.
Look, not even Reagan kept it up. I mean, people talked about Reagan having cognitive decline in his second term, and I think it's kind of undisputed now and irrefutable. But you saw a difference. I mean, and that's not a shot at all. I mean, this is just reality. It's a cycle of life, and everybody responds differently, and everybody takes care of themselves differently. Trump apparently is not doing a good job. He eats a lot of junk food, but I wish he would take care of himself more.
And
But
I think he
look,
admits
he's
it.
blessed.
But the intensity is the same. He's an intense guy.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
You need that kind of intensity. We have to fight fire with fire. There's just a well coordinated, cross-functional, cross-institutional, cross-organizational onslaught against Trump, and you need somebody who can provide an adequate counter firewall to that. And again, I would ask, can you think of anyone who could do that? I honestly can't.
But it's not just Trump, Karen. I mean, the way politics has turned in today, it's anyone who's going to be in that Republican seat is going to take this onslaught. Not Trump, because maybe his personality, his circumstance, whatever, he gives them maybe more to work with than other candidates, but they're going to find him. And look what they were doing to Ron DeSantis. They're going to do it. Even Nikki Haley, if she was going to be the candidate, they would, trust me, her little darling with the left or whatever would become, your enemy's enemy's your friend. That's all that she was to them, and she played into that. But she would have taken the fire as well. Anybody in that position would have taken the fire.
It's so funny because I've spent the entire week with my daughters, and that's why I'm so nervous. I'm like, I just need my
Do a
peace
field
and
sobriety
quiet.
test on you before you leave.
I'm a little fidgety.
I am. I need my
Just
peace and
coffee or
quiet.
what?
Yeah, no, it's just my daughters. Too much family time.
This is
But-
without the coffee. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but one of the things that I've asked them is what are your friends saying? Who would they want as vice president? Because they know that there needs to be somebody young in there. And I thought for a few seconds that they were going to say Vivek Ramaswamy, and they said anybody but him.
Anybody but who? But from
Vivek.
Really?
as
Interesting.
VP.
Huh.
And they were like, we don't trust him. We don't trust him. And they're, they are young. And this is
Does
the
she hang
group.
around conservatives over
Yeah.
there? Or is this more
Yes.
conservative
Yes.
leaning? So
yes. They're in
interesting.
Lubbock. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess there's
but
a few.
that doesn't necessarily mean that
No,
they're going to
I know, but
from
the
older
schools that
folks.
they go to, yes.
But who did she say that are friends?
They couldn't decide. They were just like, I don't know. But anybody but him. And
Interesting. That's interesting. I've never heard
so
that before.
I was surprised that
I
that
thought that at the
myself.
beginning with
Me
Vic. I
too.
was critical with him, and he did fulfill that. He kind of fit into that role or that title or label that Christie made of him, that Chat GPT. And I just thought he was too salesman-y. And I was like, there's no way this dude talks like that with his wife when they're talking after the kids are asleep or at the dinner table with his buddies or whomever. There's no way. I mean, he seems like he has more grit. He's been through the fire. I mean, look, you got to hand it to him.
And I was thinking that
Maybe that's just
myself
the way he
because
talks.
he would he may be the young person that is able to withstand all of what's going to be thrown at him.
Well, he's got grit. There's no doubt about that. Look, he needs to be in a position of counsel. He needs to be on some cabinet. He needs to be somewhere in the administration. He's a good thinker. He's a good communicator during interviews.
He really is. And
Yeah.
I'd love to see him be a spokesperson for policy, because he's so good. I mean, he's not. He can get into the weeds really quickly,
yeah.
but he can talk in ways that I think resonate with people. He's getting more comfortable.
Except for Karen's friend.
Except for Karen.
No. But one thing that they did say, and I do believe that this is something that may be on their minds, but they said it really should be a woman because of everything that has been thrown against real women these days, and that maybe we need a real woman, a real conservative woman to stand up to say, these are not real women.
Yeah.
That's what the one thing that they did say.
Right. Anyone but Katie Britt, probably.
I still have PTSD. I don't mean to pick on this. I wonder if you're going to pick that. I still have PTSD from watching that lady do.
I knew that was red meat.
Everybody
and she really is a genuinely nice person. But man, she came across as a caricature of herself. And that's unfortunate, because I really think she is it
was so bad.
She's a genuine person who came across unbelievably inauthentic, right? It's weird.
Well, I don't know her at all, but it
not good.
Made me sick.
No, if you check her out and you look at her background, she really is a pretty cool person. But man, that's not a great way to represent herself.
We don't need to give people chances right now. We need like the sure thing. And I think that something like that can't happen. Okay, we are going to take a break, and we will be right back with more on Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com, where you can join us live during the show and after the show. And please, we're reading your questions. We can actually read them. So if you have comments, please join in the conversation, and we will get more into detail after the show. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, because, okay, we got presumptive nominees now. Trump met his 1215 threshold. I think Biden needed 1,968. He met that. Fantastic. Positioning going forward. How does Trump look? I'm optimistic. I'm particularly optimistic because of the changes in the RNC, Republican National Committee now, with Laura Trump coming in as co-chair and Michael Whatley as chair. Really optimistic about that, because that's going to define our ground game in terms of how we prepare as an electorate, as a GOP electorate, for the election and beyond the GOP electorate, to try to widen the base, et cetera, and really get people to come out and vote. And yes, vote early. So I think the RNC is at an important intersection. I think they're making some critical decisions. To my understanding, I think they've already laid off a bunch of, shall we say, non-essential workers.
That's a great
in the
way
RNC.
to say it.
So I'm very pleased about that. But in terms of Trump, Nico, he seems to be well positioned in the polls with key demographics. I mean, he's appealing in the culture to people that traditionally Democrats have appealed to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's appealing to certain groups, and then the situations are drawing people to him as well. I mean, I don't think he appealed to a Michael Rappaport or to some of these people that were, stoic,
viscerally against
viscerally,
Trump. Yeah.
yes. But they're just saying, F this. He's on voting for him's on the table because what are my options? I mean, when my brother was campaigning, was working a poll, he was talking to someone, and then remember he shared with us when he was on the show with us. anyone but Biden. They just kind of threw that out there. It's like, golly, well, that's your only choice. If it's anyone but Biden, then I guess it's Trump. I mean, it's just, there's an interesting dynamic going on there because if you really look at, and I know people try to play gymnastics with the circumstance or twister, as I say, but I don't know how anybody logically, or the vast majority of people, can say that the American people are better off today. And that's just an objective statement.
When you say that, because I can't believe it either, but
forget
they do.
Trump. I mean, just forget Trump. Forget Republicans. Forget all that crap for a second. Just analyzing. Let's just look at Biden. Let's say you could replace Biden with who you wanted to. Pick up your optimal candidate. Would you keep Biden over that? And tell me why. Yep. Or anybody else, not even a Republican. And then there's just, you can't. I mean, not in good conscience. Yes, you can play gymnastics. Yes. I mean, you listen to the people, those miserable women, unfortunately, on The View, or Scarborough, and that guy's got something wrong with his brain. But because there's no logic. I want someone that's logical. I want someone that can say, hey, like we try to call balls and strikes. When Trump pisses us off, we say, man, he really irritated me, the crap out of me. Or so and so. We constructively, I hope it's constructive on both sides. We constructively criticize Republicans and Democrats because we're just trying to make observations. People can disagree with us, and that's fine. But when your tribe is always right, and that applies to both sides, but that's when I was like, I mean, if I don't hear you criticize anything about your position or your side or whatever, then I'm really going to spend limited time listening to your analysis because it's probably not credible. And so I just don't know how we're better off in general. We're just not. I mean, just from the border aspect, I know we're going to talk about what Christopher Wray said about the border again and what that means and how the border narrative has changed and from just, just poor Mexican migrants coming over to work and do jobs that nobody else wants to do, from roofing to construction to field work to housekeeping. That's different now. No one's talking about, pobrecito Mexicanos coming over from Mexico. We're talking about Haitians. We're talking about Chinese. We're talking about, Islamic people, just terrorists. Venezuela. I mean, we're talking about other countries emptying their prisons. That was kind of a tagline for a while. That appears to be true. And they're coming over and gangs are joining forces. I mean, and then Christopher Wray, there's been no friend to the conservatives, so to speak, or Trump. He's given a talking point that apparently would help the conservative Republican and then ultimately Trump. Why is he saying this? Are we going to wait for, and we'll talk about it. Sorry, Karen, that I jumped the gun.
I want you to talk about
together.
it. I know it does.
It's impossible not to talk about that if you're having a conversation about issues in general, because it seems to be a common denominator. If you talk about an economy that's on life support, then you got to talk about things that draw on the economy artificially and impoverish Americans. You can't disregard the fact that we've had 10 million people come across just in Biden's watch. So when you talk about do a fair economic analysis and you look at the load on the economy, obviously it comes back again to illegal immigration. If you talk about national security and the fact that we have no idea where these people come from, I mean, they call them undocumented for a reason. Now, when they get here, that changes. But truly, they're coming across the border. We don't know who they are. And we know for a fact, because we have a number of law enforcement agencies, the FBI included, so Christopher Wray is real close to this issue, indicating that a great number of them are on the international terror watch list. So that's an illegal immigration. So you talk about national security, you talk about economy. It does seem to come down to this common denominator, doesn't it? So how do you avoid a conversation about illegal immigration? You really can't. So it's on the forefront of every American right now. It is the number one issue. So when you say you're the closest you've ever been to being a one-issued voter, you're not alone. Yeah. A lot of people are analyzing 2024 through the lens of illegal immigration. That does not bode well for Biden, and well, it shouldn't.
I mean, look, it's should be scary to people. I mean, every state, as we know now, is a border state because you can't just keep them all on the border. I mean, but the question you have to ask yourself is, how did we get here? Because you can't fix a problem. Let me tell you what I see the Democrats do, not just with crime, with the border, with any issue. It seems these last 3 years is I said this, I think I used this analogy last week, correct me if I'm wrong. They burn the barn down, and then they take credit for putting up one of the walls. You burned the barn down, you dumbass. I mean, you burned the barn. Your actions and your behavior burned the barn down. You don't get credit for putting up the wall. You shouldn't have burned the barn down. You should be kicked out for burning the barn down. Get someone else to build it. I don't want you to rebuild a barn that you burned down in the first place. And so when you talk about things are better, it's trending. I mean, I even saw a discussion on a panel where the crime is actually down. Well, not from 3 years ago. you got to go back from 3 years ago. And when this left-leaning ideology, whether it's a DA, whether it's a governor, whether it's whatever, started implementing, because I mean, you know me, I always like talking about ideas. You can label them all you want, but just to kind of get people's kind of their defenses down, let's just talk about ideas before you label them. When you implement these left-leaning ideas, defund the police, no bond, cash bails. I mean, soft on hardened criminals. And look, I'm a criminal defense lawyer, but I was the DA, and so I really am trying to look at this objectively. I mean, these ideas suck. These ideas just suck. I mean, Minneapolis is refunding the police, okay? Repent from that. That's cool. I don't want to make you feel bad. Let's just fix it and not do the same thing over and over again. We always talk about it. There's people coming over from California. Don't bring your crappy ideas over here. I mean, you better not vote over here and destroy here, wherever it is, whether it's Florida or Texas or wherever you end up.
It's so illogical.
It doesn't make sense.
It's so illogical.
It's cultish almost. It's weird. And so that we need to have a hard look and talk about ideas. And when I really try to talk to people, because I do talk about politics when I believe that I have the opportunity. That whole BS growing up of don't talk about it in public company, politics and religion. I talk about both. I don't force it on people, but if I see an opening, I'm not afraid to go into those spaces, because how are we going to change hearts and minds to do things differently if we're not ready to engage in these conversations, hopefully professionally, have your data, have your evidence when you go into a discussion, and then invite conversation, invite disagreement, and be passionate about it. Don't be offensive, and then you're not going to change people unless you talk about it.
So speaking of ideas, on that note, Biden says during the State of the Union, in a moment of clarity, which we said he was rattled into clarity, right, when he called an illegal alien. Of course, he was barraged by his own party in the aftermath, saying you shouldn't call him illegal, even though it's an illegal alien, you should call him undocumented, I think Nancy Pelosi said.
Whatever.
So he's in an interview with Jonathan Capehart from MSNBC, and he was asked about this issue. I mean, when you call him illegal alien, he goes, yeah, that was offensive. I shouldn't have said that. And then he says two interesting things. He says, look, they built this country. And it's interesting about Biden is depending on the audience that he's talking to. Like if he's talking to black people in a room, black people built this country. If he's talking to Hispanics, Hispanics built this country. All right. So it depends on who he's talking to. He'll moderate that for the audience. So exactly who built this country? You'll notice that he'll never say that about white Caucasian Europeans, because apparently they
didn't do anything.
I guess they didn't do anything. So he'll appeal to the minority, and he'll go down intersectionalities to make these bogus arguments. And then he said that it's the reason that not only did they build the country, but they're the reason our economy is growing. So he lies about number one, because that's not true. They didn't build the country. If you look at the turn of the century, in the 20th century, you had a ton of immigration, legal immigration.
That
coming
means they
over.
were Americans.
I mean, yeah, no question about
Right.
it. That truly built the economy. These people came into the factories, and they certainly were the reason why we were able to produce the goods and services that we were for a ton of years, really up until 1924, until Americans said, hey, enough, we've had enough immigration. And in 1924, 1925, Congress said, enough is enough. And they literally turned off the spigot, Nico, on immigration in general. And we didn't have any immigration essentially from 1925 until about 1970. And the reason, so that's a long time where we have any immigration, much as illegal immigration.
People got a chance to assimilate.
Indeed.
Right.
That's right. And assimilate on what?
Because they
a common set of ideals.
They wanted to be Americans.
Exactly. They wanted to be Americans. And so why 1970 or so? Well, in 1965, led by Ted Kennedy, the Immigration Act of 1965 basically reopened the doors back up. And so you started seeing immigration levels start to skyrocket again about 5 to 10 years afterward. But you had a long stint, a good 45 to 50 years, where you literally didn't have any immigration at all. And so this narrative that they built the country, who the hell is he talking about? Illegal aliens did not build this country. It's factually untrue. And then he says that they're the reason our economy is growing. And that's another factual untrue.
Opposite.
The Federation for American Immigration Reform, you can find them at fairus.org. They have the most comprehensive analyses on illegal immigration.
What is that site again?
fairus.org, FAIRUS.org. Again, the most comprehensive breakdown on stats. And they have reported that they're costing fiscally, totally, about around $182 billion a year, cost the American taxpayer. And they put back about $32 billion in taxes. Now, that's a net $151 billion loss to the American economy every single year. I'm really trying hard to figure out how they're helping our economy is growing. You and I were chatting back and forth, texting back and forth, and Karen, you were on text stream where I said the Denver health system has just reported that they're going bankrupt. In fiscal year 23, they said they had 8,000 illegal aliens clock in 20,000 visits to their health system. Overall, unpaid visits are about $140 million, 10 million of which are illegal alien sourced. They're saying they're going broke. Now, that's a representation of what's going on across the country, from San Francisco to Colorado to New York. We've talked about New York.
Well, did you see AOC? I saw an article on AOC's district. It's completely unrecognizable.
Third world country.
It's like a third. Did you see that? It's calling a third AOC's. And if people keep voting that chick back into office, then what do you get? I mean, I'm not that guy that you get what you deserve. It's just seed time and harvest.
You get what you voted for.
You sow crappy
sure.
seeds, you're going to have crappy harvest. I mean, why would you vote these ideas back in?
Yeah.
And there's no easy way to fix this. So when you talk about mass deportations and how that sounds, that's what needs to happen. Now, how you logistically get that done, that's a different discussion. But the idea is we have a lot of illegal people in this country. We need to get them out. That is a fact. If you have a lot of illegal people in your house, just think of it. This is the hypocrisy of the left. So if you have a bunch of illegal people that take over your home, it's burglary of habitation, by the way, criminal trespass, whatever you want to call it, you don't call them newcomers. You call them thieves, you call them burglars, you call them the trespassers, they're criminals, lawbreakers. You're not saying, oh, these newcomers are in my home. Okay, just leave them here, officer. You're calling the police. You wanted to separate them from their kids. You don't care what happens. You just want them away. That's reality. Why would that be any different for our country? But for AOC's district to be unrecognizable, I mean, is shameful. But these are the ideas that she's been advocating, and many people on her side.
Americans are getting poorer, not richer, as a result of this.
You're telling me that?
No.
I know.
Well, Trump should be talking about this more and more and more.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Remember, sidebartv.com. Watch us now. Watch us after the show. We'll be right back. This is Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com. Find us in 30 or 25 minutes. We'll be continuing the show. And remember, please consider becoming a supporter of the show. We need your help. Okay, so do you want to? Are there any comments that you want to look at or answer questions?
There's a couple of comments from
right.
that degenerate John. I won't even mention his last name, but I'll talk about him on the after show if you want to.
Please.
Yeah, we'll talk about him.
I think we should clarify what we said before, because illegal aliens overwhelmingly work when they come in this country. They come here for economic reasons, which is why the abuse of the asylum process. The asylum process is not meant to give people an economic future. That's not why it's there, and yet that's how it's being used. And we know the overwhelming majority of them are coming here because they are looking for work. Now, when they come here, they overwhelmingly work, true enough. But what's happening is we've seen a precipitous drop in the labor participation force.
Wow.
So basically, so you have low-skilled Americans without college degrees, American-born people, who are no longer able to get those jobs because they're being taken by even lower-skilled an illegal alien workforce. And so what's happening is that while illegal aliens are contributing to the gross domestic product overall, the sum total of the goods and services produced by a nation, what's happening is that on a per capita basis, the average American is getting poorer, right?
Yeah.
That's the issue here. That's the fundamental issue, is that our own people, unskilled people without college degrees, aren't able to get jobs. And so their economic outlook looks worse and worse and worse. And here's I think the sourest of the pills is that a lot of the monies that they earn, Nico, are shipped back and sent back to their native countries. So not only do you make our unskilled workers that are American-born, you don't give them a shot because those jobs aren't there, but then the monies that are earned, overwhelmingly so, are sent overseas, in many cases to countries that don't care about the United States.
That's a fact. That's an actual fact.
And so you see the ripple effect here. It's massive here, man. It really is.
I'm going to change the subject.
What?
One question. Can Nathan Wade apply for unemployment benefits?
What a
If
George,
Nathan Wade is a closet illegal alien,
let me tell you, man, there's so much to laugh and criticize about this situation.
You have to laugh because it's pathetic.
But I take it serious because this is my profession. It irritates me because we have an absolute crisis of faith in our justice system. Oh, I heard someone say that, and I thought about it. I was like, a crisis of faith in our justice. Yes, here in Bexar County, with the district attorney here taking direction and instruction from the Wren Collective in Austin. Other DAs taking instruction, from LA to San Francisco to Baltimore to Philadelphia, all these Soros-backed, left-leaning, quote-unquote progressive, the Travis County DA, all these district attorneys taking instruction from other people other than the people that elected them and fulfilling their duty. People elect somebody to fulfill a duty, to ensure justice is done. And that means justice, Lady Justice wears a blindfold. It's not made out of mesh. It's a blindfold. You're not supposed to look at political parties, and you have to make tough decisions. And yes, you're going to piss some people off. That position inherently brings opposition. End of story. If you're trying to prosecute someone, they don't want to be prosecuted. Now, you can do it honorably. I literally have had people in court where I've walking around when I was DA, people facing serious charge. Hey, Mr. LaHood, good to see you. Appreciate your story. And I said, man, I wish you well. I do, because I do wish them well. And hey, Nico, you shouldn't be doing that. For what? They're people. If I had the opportunity and their defense counsel was there, I'd sit down and talk. I actually sat with people. They reached out to me on Facebook. I got their I made sure get your defense counsel. And if their story was compelling, I couldn't do it with everybody, obviously, but I made time for them. Like I say, I was a crappy politician. I like to think I was a pretty good public servant, though. And so that's why I take this serious. I take this very serious about this Fannie Willis deal. This ruling by the judge was what, in my opinion, we call a compromised ruling, a compromised verdict, where you split the baby. And they say, I think, what was it? Dershowitz said, you split the baby like Solomon, but the baby died. It's horrible. This case is gone to, it's an embarrassment. The judge, ridiculed her, said her behavior was unprofessional, that there was an appearance of impropriety, that there was an odor of mendacity, meaning that you cannot, what a fancy word to say that untrustworthy. Mendacity, meaning, there's dishonesty there. And if you kick Wade off because you believe there's an appearance of impropriety, who's that appearance of impropriety with? With Fannie Willis.
DA, yeah.
How do you keep her on? The reality is politics played in. He's running for re-election in May. She still has a contingency, and we don't know if there's any polling on her. Maybe people have turned on her. I don't know. But she has a stronghold in that area. And so he's kind of like trying to split the baby here. And I mean, he just railed against her. To me, it sounded like the Mueller report or Hugh report or whatever that guy's name is, where you say, this person sucks. They did all these things wrong, but nobody's going to prosecute them. Robert Mueller. And then what's the new guy?
But it's been going on a while, hasn't it? James Comey started with him.
Yes.
But no reasonable prosecutor, right? Robert Mueller.
Comey, that's what I was thinking. Thank you. Comey.
James Comey, former director of the FBI. Robert Mueller. Who can forget Robert Mueller, who had no idea what was in his own report? Obviously, he didn't write it. So he was there defending it before he read it. Like it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Seems to be a trend in the Capitol. So that's Robert Mueller. And then you see the same thing. And by the way, I loved Robert Hur's testimony. I thought the guy was, Robert Hur, he did a fantastic job defending the report. But not
he was very composed.
Very composed. But not a very good job defending the elephant in the middle of the table. I mean, that's a crazy decision. Here you have a guy who refuses to prosecute Biden, even as he admits that there was plenty of evidence of malfeasance. Mm-hmm. What's up with that? He says, well, his memory is so shot that no grand jury is gonna convict this guy. So there's no point in even trying. I didn't realize this justice system operated that way. There's no point in even trying, right? Because no reasonable prosecutor, no grand jury is going to do that. I mean, he can't remember his own name. So who made that up? And so we're seeing indeed a two-tiered system of justice where this judge tries to thread a needle. Nico texted us earlier. There's absolutely no difference whatsoever here between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. They should have both gone. Are you kidding me? So what's going on here? What's going on here is, again, you cut out these appropriations to get Trump. There's always an avenue to get Trump, it seems. That's how the justice system works right now. Let's do whatever we need to do, but whatever happens, we got to leave a pathway to get Trump. This is pathetic. And Americans are seeing this stuff. So what's the recourse back? How do we get back to that? I don't know. It's a question for you. Well,
you have to have an overhaul in the culture and the ideology. I mean, you have to come in and say, look, this is the way it's going to be. Now, you can't overcorrect. This is always the fear. I mean, I'm a defense attorney again. I think there should be honorable people on both sides. There are some there's a number of prosecutors that kind of get tunnel vision, that they see, if you're you're a hammer, everything's a nail. I mean, so that everybody's guilty and that you don't want to reason and you don't want to make tough decisions, and it's easier just to move forward and push the can down the road when you're not realizing that there's people's lives on the line. There's no common sense and there's no courage. If you're in a position as a prosecutor, especially as the DA, you need common sense and courage, or you can't do that job well. And seriously, you have to be logical, you have to critically think, always be open to taking information from people and saying, look, we could have been wrong. This investigation is incomplete. There's something we didn't realize. So you're not sandbagged in the middle of a jury trial, because the defense doesn't have to turn over their evidence to you. There's a Brady requirement to turn over exculpatory innocent evidence of innocence or impeachment evidence to the defense, but it's not a reciprocal duty, and nor should it be. And so you need common sense, you need courage to make the right decision, do what's right, not what's easy. And that was a sign that was in my office. Do what's right, not what's easy. I'll always back you up for doing what's right. As long as what you're doing is ethical, and if it's legal, then I'm always going to back you up, even if you were wrong, because then we'll learn and we'll course correct. But it was ethical and legal, and that's the only policies we had in the office. Everything else was a tendency. When you have policies, I think you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting yourself up for the accusation of favoritism. But if you have tendencies to do things a certain way, and the only policies are whatever you do should be ethical and legal, then there's your only policy. Your tendencies can be every situation is a little bit differently. So you have to come in with a different mindset. You have to lead and not manage people, and you have to encourage people with training and to make the right decision. If you want a bunch of vending machines and you just put in a vending machine, here's your accusation, here's your plea bargain. You want it and you take it. If you don't, set it for trial. That's not what lawyers do. Lawyers should critically think. Their oath is to ensure justice is done in Texas. Every state is very similar. What does that mean? Did we get it right? That means there's a lot of things we need to consider, that either an investigatory agency was missing or had some type of bias, and it happens, or some intake person missed something, and there should be an encouragement to do what's right. Come down hard on the people that we're afraid of, and then have a road to redemption for people that we're kind of just pissed off at, right? I mean, so that's really the restorative justice model. It's not just let everybody go, but people have screwed that up. I don't know if I could use the word. I'll use it after, Kurt. But it gets screwed that up, and that's where we're at. I mean, just look at all the places where progressive Soros-backed DAs have implemented the set of ideas that they're running on. Just go look. I mean, I'm not going to be proven wrong. Nobody wants to live in those places.
The facts are out there.
They're out there. I mean, it's not my opinion anymore. Yes, at one point it was my opinion, and I was theorizing. I was correct, and not just me. Many people were. But now just look at the evidence speaks for itself.
I'm wondering why the justice system gets a pass in the analogy of when you have excesses for such a long time and they become the norm. How do you fix it? How do you get back to normal? How do you get back to sanity without some temporary excesses in the other direction? It's an honest question. I don't know. I'm not.
Why do you need the excesses?
Well, because so much damage. I mean, just in any other analogy of life, take the justice system out of it. I mean, if you've gone so far in one direction and it's so deleterious and so so damaging that you just can't wait to get back to normal, and so you take some intense actions in the beginning just to get back to normal so that you can establish some balance. And I'm wondering, I mean, you do that in health, you can do that in sports, when time is short and there have been excesses in one direction and you got to get back to normal. So you got to make some quick and some intense course corrections.
Course corrections without overcorrecting.
But that's why they're already calling Trump a dictator. They're setting it up.
No, but George is talking about the justice system. I mean,
right.
I look at it. Let's say there's a parent that has let their kids run wild and they're a spoiled brat. Well, I mean, if you overcorrect and then everything is wrong and everything, you're going to destroy that child's, psyche.
True.
So what I'm saying is, if you just go back to justice and come down hard when you have to come down hard, be diligent about that, be consistent, be courageous about it.
I'm not suggesting it would be the norm. I'm suggesting that it would be in the short term, just to kind of get back into recognizing the other side of things. Because it's truly absurd. Look, Dershowitz used some strong language. He said, no matter the outcome, this prosecution has been irrevocably tainted. And the U.S., and even through the U.S. justice system in there. And the U.S. justice system sinks deeper into decay.
We need to finish this conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's continue.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. This is Sidebar. Please join us after the show in just a few minutes at sidebartv.com. George, I know you got to go back to what you were saying so you can finish your thought.
Yeah, and I realize this gets a little hairy, but consider, I use the analogy of affirmative action. In the immediate aftermath of the Civil Rights Acts in the 1960s, beginning in 1964, affirmative action comes in, and why? Affirmative action thinking says these individuals have been so marginalized. They've been so maltreated, in some cases to a subhuman level, for so long. And Karen, you use the analogy of putting them back on the map. We need to put these individuals back on the map, and they've been so far off the map. It's going to take something drastic. So affirmative action comes in. And now we're making decisions particularly, specifically, precisely because of race, which is actually un-American, if you think about it. But things have been so bastardized that it takes something dramatic to get these people at least back on the map so that we can find our way back to normalcy. Now, the problem is, and this is where Nico says this is a slippery slope because we never get back to normalcy.
Yeah.
Human beings traffic in excesses. And the problem is those excesses become the norms and we hurt each other quite a bit. And so I can do those analogies in sports. I can do it in health. Nico says maybe that's applicable there, maybe, but not
when
in
it comes to the justice system.
Why did the justice system get a pass in that regard?
It's not that it gets a pass, because you have the ability to correct things without being excessive. Because everyone thinks that's a great idea until it happens to your child, until your kid is wrongfully prosecuted, until your kid is overly punished to make a point to get us back to quote unquote normal. What is normal? We have all the tools. Just get the person in office with the courage, as we say, the cuyans, the huevos, to get in there, male or female, and get the job done. You have a lot of discretion. Mean what you say what you mean. Don't worry about idiots like the people that comment on things, and just be right with your conscience. If you're a person of faith, as I am, and you say, okay, I got to answer to God when it's all said and done. If much is given, much is to be expected. Seek counsel from other people, as Proverbs says. Wisdom is found in the counsel of many. And then use the discretion you have to come down hard when it's appropriate, and then give opportunity. I don't give people a chance. I didn't believe in second chances. What do you mean you didn't believe in second chances? Look at your life. No, I believe in opportunities. A chance is a freebie. An opportunity is something, hey, here's a pathway to redemption, but you're going to have to work for it, because then you have skin in the game. And it's going to be, and the justice system doesn't have to overlook you for the rest of your life, and you're a productive citizen, and then now you're not going to come back because our recidivism rate is 75% plus. If you have a 75% recidivism rate, something's wrong. We're just putting Band-Aids on cuts, and we're never healing the wound. And then the Band-Aid comes off, put another Band-Aid on. You put a little bit of ointment on, and the cut never heals and never closes up. And so this is the discussions people, we talk in sound bites. So what George is saying I understand your point about affirmative action, all this other stuff, but all that applies in every maybe situation that I'll listen to that discussion, except it's dangerous in the justice system. I dealt with people, there's a lot of people that are in prison appropriately. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody's innocent, okay? But there's a question we ask in jury selection. Would you rather 10 people that are guilty be let off to save the one innocent person, or the other way around?
That's awful, but yes, I get it.
And you really have to see where you're at on this deal. Are we trying to protect the innocent? In every situation, and all I'm saying is you have to be very careful. I have people that were staunch. Everyone, I don't care about the Fourth Amendment, whatever. If you're doing something wrong, you shouldn't have this right. Okay. And you got to think about until it happens to you, and then it's like they become the best defense attorney in the world. It's like, wait a minute, they missed this, they missed this. And all I'm saying is we just have to temper ourselves. You don't need to overcorrect and then come back too harshly. You can just do what the Constitution and your discretion as a DA, and hire ADAs with common sense that have justice on their heart, that want to get it right. You can have a firm hand and a loving heart at the same time. You can. It's not one or the other. But it's called meekness. That means strength under control, not under control. And so I just caution that, because I deal with prosecutors. Even when I was DA, but as a defense attorney for sure, you deal with prosecutors that either give away the farm or burn the farm down, and everybody's guilty. And it's like, man, you're dealing with people's lives. Either someone's a convicted felon and they're 18 or 20 and they have no opportunity to turn their lives around, and we're dealing with a nonviolent offense, or people that are very, very violent and they're being treated like they're just petty thieves. And it's just there's a happy medium that means it's justice, and it means you be hard. You have a heavy hand. That's why Lady Justice has a sword. That's why she puts her foot on the serpent, and she's crushing the serpent between her foot and the law book, the books of the law. But she has a blindfold because what? Because she doesn't see race, she doesn't see ethnicity, she doesn't see religion, she doesn't see political parties. But in her left hand, she holds the scales. She has to balance it all out. That's the goddess Themis, by the way. That whole model is imaged after the goddess Themis. Now, I don't believe in only one God, in the God of the Bible, Yahweh, but I'm just saying she was the goddess of order in Greek times. That statue goes all the way back to Greek times. And the goddess Themis was the goddess of order. The justice system should bring order to a society. And all those different things of the blindfold, the sword, the scales, the serpent, which is evil, and the book, which is meaning a command over the law. That's why she has her foot on it, and she's crushing her evil. All that means something, and it gets distorted over time.
God, I want to believe you. I want to believe you that there can be a way to just immediately go back to.
So what's the answer, Karen?
I don't know.
She said, what's the answer?
I don't know, but when I think about what you're saying, that would be fantastic. But on the other hand, I think, is Fannie Willis going to replace Wade, is she going to be the one that does it? Because she was the one that picked the wrong guy in the first place. So why are we putting justice back in the hands of somebody that just messed it all up?
No, we went off on a different track. We're just talking kind of in theoretics.
I get what you're saying.
Fannie Willis should have been removed. There's no doubt about that.
But because of the compromised legal system that we have today, she's going to be able to put back
that's the question. How do you uncompromise it? And it's so bastardized. It's so tainted, to use the word that Dershowitz used. So what's the recourse? Are we going to have to engage in counter excesses to get it back to normal?
But what does that look like? Hold on. But I want to just dissect this, because what does that look like to Dershowitz or to you?
What it would look like is that you would have to basically create a new norm where right now it seems like the only acceptable outcome in any ruling right now pertaining conservatives and or Trump is that Trump must be guilty. And conservatives.
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about in the justice system. I
am talking about. There's four criminal cases, 91 counts, and so people are wondering. They're wondering, is it possible that Trump can even get any justice whatsoever ultimately? Now, he's been successful in delaying this stuff, so that's a step in terms of getting himself in a position where he can pardon himself. But see, that's a work around the justice system. He can't rely on the justice system. So it's going to take a hammer to fix this.
But
he's going to have to get elected president, and he's going to have to pardon himself. That's one.
But I want to know what this looks like. To me, and maybe I'm misunderstanding you, George.
I'm giving you one example. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying.
Because here's my fear. My concern is you're driving home, and you got your kids. And you're irritated with your kid. You look down, the officer looks at you and thinks, reasonable suspicion. Why did that guy look down for me? And then so he tramples on your Fourth Amendment rights and goes into your car, and you say, no, I don't want you to search my house because you're in your driveway now. Well, I think there may be something in your house. And then forget about your Fourth Amendment right, Third Amendment right, all this other stuff, put you in cuffs, and does an unreasonable search and seizure and goes through your house, finds nothing because you don't do anything wrong. I mean, at least illegally. But then now what? It's like, well, but that's okay because we're overcorrecting. We're overcorrecting because now we have havoc. So I don't want disorder. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying we have tools called the Constitution. We just need the right people in position.
But how long do we have to make that happen?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying historically, that's where it goes. We go to excesses. When we correct, we overcorrect.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Historically, we go there. And what I was asking is,
on either side,
rhetorically is, how do we avoid that? I don't think we can avoid it, which is unfortunate. I wish we could. But this is what the left does. It's going to force your hand, and this is where we're going to. There's a day of reckoning coming. The pendulum will swing. History shows it always does. The country suffers when that happens. I don't think an exception should have been made in affirmative action. I don't think that was the answer. I understand why they did it. I get it, but I think it was a real mistake. It was a real mistake. It ended up in an exact reversal of the ideals of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that's a mistake. I think engaging those excesses, I think, is a problem. It gives you temporary satisfaction, but long-term, it's a wrong move. And so I think that what we have here is such a grotesquely two-tier system of justice. People are fed up, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, I know, but do we start building the ark for our law, our legal system, so that all of the bad can get washed away? Like, how long is this going to take? And do we have the time to correct what's going on? Because it's obviously, what's going on is wrong.
Yeah, you need a DA in all these places that comes in and says, look, if you threaten our people, you're going to be held accountable. Even on low crimes. I mean, when you say, oh, we're not going to prosecute these low crimes, that's BS. You have pretrial diversion. You have a lot of discretion where you can get people on track. But if you start training people and conditioning them that there's no accountability for Lola, people always want to naturally push the envelope. I mean, look at California. I mean, they have to, anything under $900 is not going to be prosecuted. You're telling people to go steal everything $899 and less.
And that's not a crime, so there's no problem.
It is a crime. It's just not going to be prosecuted.
Correct.
Let's play it out. I'm not suggesting that, for instance, Trump would come in, put in an entirely conservative cabinet, of course, including the Department of Justice, and that now they're going to engage in illegalities just to prove a point. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that there's going to be a magnification of crimes, of law-breaking from Democrats and Democrat politicians. It's not that they're not guilty. It's that now that's going to be magnified. Those are going to be front and center versus what's been happening to conservatives for the last decade. That's what I'm suggesting. And I don't think that's a great idea either. I think you should follow the evidence where it goes, whether it's conservative or Democrat.
Ensure justice is done. The problem is the definition of justice is different from both sides. You have people that think, well, if you possess X amount of drugs and you're a young person, you should be a convicted felon the rest of your life. And there's other people that think, well, if you run over a baby and a mom, you should get deferred adjudication. I mean, man, those are kind of skewed definitions of justice on both. This is my point on so it all comes down to definition.
We're not saying it should happen. We're not saying it will happen. We're saying it may happen. And historically, we've seen these overcorrections. I hope
the justice system should make people feel safe and confident in the system that if I get accused by an agency, I'm going to be treated fairly. I'm going to have fundamental fair play. It's called due process. If there's evidence that shows I'm innocent, then the prosecutor is going to consider it. If somebody does something horrendous, look at our Child Protective Services is a mess right now. The current DA, he's ruined it, and people are screaming out for help. And there's a lot of kids that are falling through the cracks, and cases are not being prosecuted because he dismantled the division that I had set up. Look, I know we're coming to an end, guys. We're going to finish this conversation. Hopefully it gets a little more heated. We have some more good discussions. We'll talk more about Trump, Biden, the border crisis, Fannie Willis, and what that means to the justice system and maybe ours. Have a blessed weekend. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. What were we talking about now? Nothing.
Everything.
I totally get what you say. And I am 100, you know how I love the law. You know, I mean, like, I am passionate because I don't know why. I just love to see justice, and I love that we get that opportunity. But I also see what you're saying, George, that there has to be something drastic, because to me, how can you flesh out all the bad that's been going on, and it's been going on, and it's ingrained, and people are getting away with it? How do you get rid of that with one man being elected? Like if Trump got elected, it can't just happen immediately.
This is we've thrown around the term benevolent dictator. That's the thrust behind a benevolent dictator, a guy like Salazar in Portugal in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s. He was in there for about 40 years. And he's not the only one. There have been others where the system is so corrupted by a predecessor party who has, so we have a constitution in name only. It carries no weight. And where it's blown off in favor of one particular party at the behest of another. And this goes on for years, perhaps even decades, where the nation that you have right now in no way, shape, manner, or form even reflects the nation that was founded. And so how do you get back to normal? How do you get back to normal in a way that doesn't take 100 years? And so you need some drastic action, right? And so someone comes in and they suspend norms just to get back to sanity.
How long?
Just to get back to a point where society isn't crumbling. Yeah, that's exactly right. We don't know.
But in your example with Salazar, it's benevolent dictator. So that means there's good and there's blessings.
Oh no,
to
absolutely.
people.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, the left is doing what the left is doing in the name of good too.
That's my point. That's why I talk about it. Comes down to definitions.
It comes down to definitions.
It comes down to definitions.
So a benevolent dictator would come in and basically reinstate the authority of the Constitution.
make Constitution the supreme authority of the land again, and get back to what the Constitution was meant to be, and that it was in fact meant to govern, and to the ideals of the Declaration of Independence. Getting back to those things. And you basically keep the good and get rid of the bad. And those definitions are, what governs those definitions is what the country was founded to be. That's the point. And no, I'm not talking about slavery, and I'm talking about all those truly unfortunate and deviations from the ideals. I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about the ideal. Let's reinstate the ideal, because we're so far from it right now. And I'm asking, what's it going to take? And so I'm praying that Trump will come in and not be a benevolent dictator, but that he will in fact go through bureaucracy after bureaucracy and after bureaucracy. And there's actually a plan that he had in place, assuming he was going to get into a second term, where he was going to lay off and get rid of thousands of government workers. I mean, thousands. It may have been as many as 50,000. I think this is Document F or Plan F, Program F, and that's the right way to do it. You do what Javier Milei is doing. You go through from institution, from bureaucracy to bureaucracy.
Afuera.
And you get rid of individuals who haven't been elected and who aren't serving the interests of the American people. And you go organization by organization by organization. You need a strong cabinet. You need good people around you. He can't repeat the mistakes of the first presidency. I have a lot of hope for that. I believe.
The way God works, I always marvel at him. If this thing plays out the way I hope it does, and Trump is elected, I think it blesses the country long term. Because if Trump would have done 2 terms back to back, he would have still had the same resistance. There would have still been the same delusion.
You're so right.
This is almost needed. This is like a book of Judges analysis I'm making, where pain is a good motivator and it wakes people up. You think Michael Rappaport, those that don't know who he is, look him up, who was a rabid Trump hater, would be like, man,
double hate.
F this. Yeah. I mean, shit. I mean, he's on the table voting for this dude. And other people, Joe Rogan, who was supporting Bernie Sanders initially, and now he's definitely more libertarian, than left-leaning. I mean, he's just seen the insanities.
Right.
And I'm just using those 2 as examples. I mean, there's a lot more out there. I mean, obviously Trump is making inroads with different groups for a reason. And it's not just because it's Trump. It's because it's Trump in these circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that can't stand Trump, but they can't stand these circumstances more.
So true.
And they think his craziness is what we need for these crazy circumstances. That's an analysis. Like we said, Trump deranged syndrome is real, but Trump euphoria is real. I mean, the guy's just a dude, with brass balls and a fake tan and wacky hair. I mean, this is the reality. And he's got a set of skills and characteristics that irritate the shit out of you, but also are needed to irritate the shit out of the other side, to be honest with you. And so he's proper for this time, for this moment in history. And so all I'm saying is, but for this whole, where would conservatives or libertarians or anybody be in these ideas if Trump would have done 8 years? We'd have a different country, yes, in a good way for a period of time. But with the backlash, with the deception, with the delusion, look, stats show that young men, more than women, younger men are leaning more conservative. Scares the shit out of the left. They don't want that. What are you talking about? What about this masculine toxic masculinity? Sorry, I did backwards.
Right.
Toxic masculinity. We got to keep pushing that shit, and they're tired of it. Wait a minute. Men need to be men. They need to be righteous. They need to be chivalrous. They need to be humble. They need to be meek, not weak men, servant leaders of their homes and of society. That's a huge responsibility, but they need to be men. I mean, and a good biblically minded woman wants that, by the way, and advocates that. I love when a woman advocates for a biblically minded, masculine man. I mean, not this bull. I mean, I see some dudes out there, I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, weak ass handshakes, and they walk around with little, just be a man, be a humble man, but we need that. We need men, and we need a wonderful, beautiful women. We can't do it alone. I mean, we need, there's a beautiful complementary relationship that God designed for us, and we can't do it without either one of them. I'm sorry for my original point about Trump.
Yeah.
We almost needed it this way, because I think Trump will have a lot more, people will have a lot more tolerance for him. Even the people that don't like him, like, oh, he's Trump, he irritates the crap out of me.
He'll have a greater mandate.
Right. Go do, and he'll have more wisdom. When you can split up, I'm not saying I'm running for DA. Everybody were like, I'm not running. I'm just saying, but if God said, you're running for DA and run again, You don't think I'd go in there with a different,
Sure.
I mean, a
Absolutely.
completely different, not completely, but a different set of ideas because I've had this
You
break.
saw the playbook already.
Yeah, but versus
Right.
staying in there for, now with the
You'd come in with a
president.
better idea of what progress looks like. You have a better idea of
But
what
to
the
go
resistance
to
to
leave
progress
and to
is.
come back is different
Yeah.
than to be back to back. I'm
Yes.
telling you, there's a difference.
There is.
Because you see things differently. You have different perspectives, different experiences.
I agree.
And then you see things go to hell or do
Yep.
better without you or go to shit without you, whatever
Yep.
it is. You just go. I just think it's going to be different. So I hope it's God's will that Trump wins again. I really do. I trust whatever it is. We just need to do our parts. It doesn't mean that everything about Trump that I love. No, I mean, I criticize him. I was debating. I'm sorry. I'll pass to you right now, George.
It's okay.
I was debating with a guy that I dearly love, and we're very close, and we work together. And I'm never voting for Trump. And I was like, the difference between you and I is you never criticize your tribe. I constructively criticize mine all the time.
Absolutely.
And he couldn't say anything to that. He said, "You're right." I said, "You never do." "Yes, I do." "No, you don't." I've never.
Because you want your tribe to get better and you want them to
Yes.
truly serve the interests of its
Take over,
constituents.
yes.
That's the point. And Democrats aren't really interested. They're just interested in power, whatever gives them power. I want to get back to this concept and build on some of the things that you said, Nico, because I think they're related. We don't want a benevolent dictator. What I'm saying is historically, that's been necessary in non-constitutional republics to get back to sanity. What we need is for Trump to come in, a wiser Trump, a better sense
Temperate.
of just how rotten Washington is, where it's rotten, a really good sense of how his own party has been compromised, but specifically
So
who?
true.
Specifically who? When he puts people in his cabinet, he puts people around him to the bidding of the presidency of the executive branch, people who are actually looking out for the interests of the president, which was obviously who was elected by the American people. That kind of unity is critical. Trump never enjoyed that. He never had that. He was obstructed from the inside every single day, all the time. It was maddening. His own party trying to cut his legs off. And I think that'll be a significant difference coming in. I think you're going to see that kind of necessary unity. And if he has that kind of cross-organizational unity in cabinet positions, then they can go to the Department of Education. Oh, my Lord Jesus, may we have significant changes in the Department of Education that we haven't had forever. Go after teachers' unions. This is cancerous, what's happening. The use of the American educational system to build essentially a neo-Marxist revolution against America from the inside. This is insane. Trump is coming in a wiser person. He needs somebody, really somebody in a strong position, a Secretary of Education who can come in.
You know what I
and
was
start
very pleased-
mining it
Yes,
from the inside.
You know
and
how I was
cleaning
very
it from
happy
the
about,
inside.
George? We texted each other. I was very pleased that Mike Pompeo said that he'd be open to serving with Trump.
We need that guy
Wow.
back. I think we need that in the Department of
like
State.
Mike, man,
He is
in a position
fantastic.
like that. Yep.
That guy knows
Not
foreign
as
policy.
VP.
He knows how foreign regimes work. He is polished.
Yep.
He's very articulate. I mean, he's precise.
He's tempered. He's
poised.
courageous. Poised.
He's
Yep.
poised. It's hard to rattle that guy. I think he's absolutely necessary. I thought. I mean, Ben Carson, I thought was doing some really great. The guy is like, he's very consistent.
He's
Ben
more
Carson.
seasoned.
And very
He's
chilled.
more seasoned.
Absolutely.
You see my point?
Consistent.
Everybody.
He's
Trump
organized,
knows.
methodical.
Yep.
Yeah. We need him back. I think he was running Department of Housing, if I remember correctly. We need good people in those positions, people who are absolutely committed to the objectives of the presidency. We don't want somebody who does everything by executive fiat. Is Trump going to have to write some executive orders?
Sure,
Absolutely.
he has to.
Why? Because what's been written into quote unquote law by executive order can be undone very easily the same way. And so he can come in and write executive orders to reverse some of the insanities of the Biden administration, particularly as it pertains to drilling in the
I
United
was
States.
just
right?
thinking that.
Exactly.
I was
Drilling.
just
Well, that's what he was
thinking that.
talking
fracking.
about. That's so disingenuous when they say he's going to be. I mean, it's journalistically dishonest. It's morally reprehensible because when Trump was clear about it, I mean, whether you like him or not, he says, "Look, I'm going to say this joke." I mean, he prefaced it. Yeah, I'm going to be a dictator for one day on one issue.
I
drill,
know, and
baby,
then
drill,
everybody's like,
and that's
"Oh."
it. And he goes, but. Now they're going to just say that I'm going to be a dictator. He called
And-
it out already,
and
by the
they
way.
did.
Right, 'cause he
It's
knows how
so
these guys work.
dishonest. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy, Joe Scarborough, he really irritates the shit out of me. I mean, it just drives me insane when anybody has that type of delusion on either side. And we're dealing with that type of
He's
insanity.
unhinged. He's sort of Robert De Niro with a suit. And
Robert De Niro's
without
this guy. I mean, these people are nuts.
Without saying fuck every 2 seconds.
Yeah, look, which I don't mind, but all I'm saying. So we went back to this vice president discussion because people were giving their comments about Tim Scott or whatever, and we talked about Kristi Noem. I'm just fascinated by who is it going to be, but it needs to be someone courageous. It needs to be someone, frankly, that are probably going to run for president for 8 more years.
It needs to be somebody young.
So it needs to be, of course, but it needs to be someone that can sustain and have that stamina. Who people talk about Kristi Noem. I know there was some scandal, and I'm not into rumors. I can't stand hearsay and rumors and bullshit. I mean, that's where John Fodrell, that psychopath, idiot, coward, son of a bitch. Sorry, I have Tourette's, but it's out there. But what I'm saying is, he's a coward, he's dishonest, he's a liar, and he's a con artist himself that got fired from the city, and he's embarrassed, and he's a disgrace to his family. I mean, all these things. And go back and look at his stuff. He's embarrassing.
And those are the good parts.
Yeah, let me tell you what's bad about him. No, I'm just joking. But it's got to be someone. I mean, like with Kristi Noem. I mean, I know there was some scuttlebutt about her doing some affair, which I can't stand that shit. She never really came out and denounced that. And I don't know if she thought that gives it more credence, but that's serious. If someone is accusing you of being disloyal to your husband and breaking a covenant that you have always stood for, I mean, I would say, first of all, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I think it's disgusting that people would say something like that about me and my husband. And I would have addressed something as serious as that. I've never heard her address it. When the rumors came out, she kind of went MIA for a little while, then she resurfaced. I don't know.
She addressed it initially.
Okay, and
time went by. It was
then didn't
resurfaced
readdress
in the news.
Okay.
And then it was her spokesman. And remember, that's when I texted her and said, hey, her spokesman is dead. And he said, that don't mean shit.
Well, I mean, that's serious stuff, man. I mean,
okay.
I would. You don't stay on it, but you got to address it.
You're talking about the alleged affair with Corey Lewandowski.
I don't know
who's
Lewandowski.
a former campaign manager for the Trump organization. I think it's in light of her supporting Trump and being around Trump that she probably met
I
him.
just want to see Kristi Noem be normal for a living. She's so polished. She's almost like the Republican Julian Castro, right? And I don't mean that exactly on ideas, but she's always poised. She's always made up. She's always very stoic. She's always. I don't think I've ever seen her like a belly laugh. You got to see someone laugh like a belly laugh.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to have a belly. You have to belly laugh because that just shows them that they have that in them. They have that part of their character. Yeah. And then you also need to see them mad dog somebody and tell someone to go fuck off in a different way. Maybe not literally.
Carrie Lake way.
I think she's got the fuck off part down pretty good.
Who does?
Now,
Kristi Noem?
Kristi Noem.
It's more stoically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Okay.
But maybe.
I don't dislike her, by the way. I like her a lot. I'm just saying.
You're right. You're right. Maybe she needs to tap into the culture a little bit better.
I don't know.
Maybe we got to get her around Kamala Harris a little bit. And then she can. Then she'll laugh her ass off when she's asked the most basic. What's your name? I mean, where does she get this stuff?
That chick is insane.
Every single time.
That's,
It's everything that funny all the time.
No, but the shit she says, Kamala Harris.
I know.
When they talk about word salad, it just applies to her.
Right.
I think I sent you guys something on. They asked her a question about. I don't know what the hell she's talking about anymore.
Yeah.
And she says the same thing over and over again. And you are just a very unintelligent person.
And a very unimpressive person.
I don't
truly.
understand what she's doing.
I can't even watch her stuff anymore. It makes
She's
me
the only
so
person
sick.
less popular than Biden.
That's pretty damn hard.
And so that's what you need to say. You're voting for that lady.
Yeah.
You're not voting for Biden.
Exactly right.
The chances of this guy lasting 5 more years, I just don't see it. And I don't wish to harm on him. I don't wish harm on him. He just needs to retire and enjoy whatever life he has left, and go back to the beach and have, sit on his chair. But I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. This is, and I'm hoping. I wish the show was more than an hour long on the radio side and more than an hour on the Facebook side because there's a lot coming up. We were texting on topics yesterday, and Nico says, "Man, we need a 3-hour show," and I don't know. I can see why Rush Limbaugh.
I know,
and why other shows are on the air for hours a day because the 24-hour news cycle is constantly changing. There's always something completely asinine that's coming out of Washington. And it's consequential. This isn't just sort of a giant rumor mill. It really does affect the lives of Americans every single day. I mean, look at all the topics that came out just this week. I mean, most of us don't know that the Senate, we didn't get to it, but the Senate Armed Services Committee had a general. They routinely do. They have generals come in and This was a United States general that came in and talked about how he was concerned about the fact that we have thousands of Chinese nationals that are coming across the border. And he says they tend to aggregate, and so the counterintelligence harm of having that many Chinese nationals coming in together at certain parts of the border is unprecedented, he said, in deep concern. And then he just kind of casually throws out the fact that we have what he thinks is about 1,000 drones
Oh, yeah.
that cross the border on a regular basis.
I'm telling you,
thousands of drones that
people need to
cross the
wake the
border, I
hell
think
up,
is what he
man.
said. They cross the border on a regular basis. And he says they cross the border because they deliver narcotics on a regular basis. But also they provide counterintelligence activity. You can actually see the movements of our Customs and Border Patrol agents. We can see the movements of our immigration and customs enforcement agents. We can literally see tactically through these drones, cartels and other nefarious outfits can use these drones to cross the border with impunity on a regular basis to the tunes of thousands of them. This is happening on a regular
I mean, what are you
basis.
looking at these pictures of Arizona? I mean, look, you have 14 Democrats that denounce Biden's border policies. But what are you going to do with that? Then you need to. I'm like Henry Cuellar.
What are you gonna do that?
What are you going to do with that? We got to do more. I mean, look, Ron DeSantis, great governor. I mean, wasn't the best presidential candidate. We talked about that. Hopefully, he'll be comfortable in his skin if he runs again. But he's very comfortable in his gubernatorial skin. I mean, he's being proactive, not waiting for this invasion of Venezuelans and all this Haitians and all these people coming over. You know the crap that's happening in Haiti.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
so
I mean,
scary.
it's scary as shit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Americans stuck over there.
Yep.
People are being taken over. They're cannibals. It's all kinds of shit going on over there. It's craziness, and it's truly third world country stuff. And they're coming over here. I mean, so the Katie Hobbs, Governor Hobbs, should be working with Governor Abbott and DeSantis and saying, look, partisan politics aside, screw that shit. We got to worry about our citizens in this country. Arizona is the front lines also, like Texas is.
Mm-hmm.
Florida in a different way. But Ron DeSantis like, we're not playing this game with you guys. We're not playing this game. And he's being proactive, boats, National Guard, using all the resources of Florida. And that's why people feel safe over there. And he's got such wide, his popularity is through the roof. I mean, his reelection bid was insane. But we need to do that. Governor Abbott, God bless him, he's doing what he can do, and he's being bolder. And you're seeing this new piece of Governor Abbott, right? We've constructively criticized in the past.
We always wondered if he had it in him.
Man,
but
but
you
you
knew it was going to be necessary.
Look, you find out someone's true. I've never been proven wrong on this, Karen. I've never been proven wrong on this. You find out someone's true character if you give them power or problems. Even if it's perceived power or perceived problems, but especially actual power and actual problems, you'll find out their true character. Governor Abbott has stepped up to the plate. He's doing that. Where's Governor Hobbs? I don't know what she's doing or not doing. They got to work together because this is crazy. And for Biden to dishonestly say, I got my hands, look, I was going to use it. He's still the president, so I want to show some decorum and respect. But look, dude, I mean, you're the one that created this problem. You can't blame anybody else. And people are seeing it, from Bill Maher to Michael Rappaport to Joe Rogan to all the people that were not normal conservative allies are saying, I'm calling bullshit on this one. And then these 14 Democrats, including Cuellar, what are they prepared to do? How are they prepared to work with Republicans? If you're that passionate about it, you lead the charge. Show Republicans how to act on this and show some cuyans, and it's work together on this one issue. Even if it's just one issue, work with this one issue to help and save our country, because it's that serious of an issue. What I really fear, Karen, and I'll pass on this, I really fear, with all the warnings of Ray and the FBI, when the fuck are we going to wake up? I mean, it's not if, it's when. We all keep saying that something bad is going to happen in this country. And if it's truly coordinated, it could cause havoc.
I know.
Look, a handful of very determined people can shut down a city, a whole city. Can you imagine just hundreds out of those 10 million people? I did the numbers last time. Remember we talked about it? What's 10% of 10 million? A million. What's 5% of 10 million? 500,000. What's 1% of 10 million? Do the math. What's 0.5% of 10 million could cause havoc in this country? If it's well coordinated and they're well armed and they have good, information and recon, which they have because we've given it to them. We've given them every opportunity.
Yeah.
They could cause havoc. Now you have an internal attack like a Trojan horse. We've seen that in history. And then an external attack because all of our weapons are everywhere else. You're going to talk about you better be prepared to defend and work with our army. And I'm not a doom and gloom dude. That's not crazy what I'm saying.
We had a handful of planes with hundreds of people and a handful of terrorists in 9/11.
I'm happy to be corrected.
No, of course.
I mean, right? I mean, that's a realistic
I'm giving you an
scenario.
example of how, I mean, look at 9/11. That was literally a handful of
That's
individuals.
exactly what I was thinking.
And look at the chaos, 3,000 people dead. And look, I mean,
With
just
box
look at the
cutters and
destruction.
planes.
That's all it takes. I mean, we're deluded if we think this isn't an existential threat. Look, I'm genuinely optimistic. I am about how things are looking for Trump and for us to turn this thing around. I mean, he's looking real good. He's looking solid in swing states. I'm happy about that. I mean, we need to rebuild our military. I think he's ahead in every single swing state by at least 5 points.
It needs to stay that way.
With the exception of Pennsylvania, I think he's coming up on that. He's looking real good. I'm really sort of tired of Trump needs to do better. We got to get those independents, but he's doing really well with independents. He's doing better than Biden is.
I hope so, man.
I'm concerned about the fence sitter, people who just haven't been out to vote ever and getting their asses off the couch. And I think if there's ever a time to do that, it's now. Katie Pavlich on townhall.com, she calls Democrats the Olympians of voting. And she goes, we need to do the same thing, right? If you remember in 2020, you remember what the Democrats managed to do, literally litigate the change of voting laws. Last minute, they banked millions and millions of votes in early votes. By the time that Trump even made it to the polls, I mean, Trump voters even made it to the polls, they had millions of votes already that were clocked in. They had a very organized operation.
Sounds like we're addressing it now.
They've had lots of we're just starting. That's the problem. We're just starting to address that because under Ronna McDaniel, this simply wasn't taken seriously. So I'm really praying that the RNC does what they say they're going to do, that they get a really solid ground game, that mail-in balloting is legal. I wish it wasn't.
Deal with it.
I wish it wasn't, with the exception of emergencies, but it is. We got to deal with it. It's just reality. Ballot harvesting, I hate to say it, it's legal. And guess what? We need to be better at it than they are.
Look, I'm going to make a comment about that.
Providing
and then I want to get back to the
ethical.
military discussion because you went on a different direction, which I loved. But I want to make my point about the military. But look, we have 2 weeks for voting. And we have mail-in ballots for people that are sick or elderly or serving across, or you register and you qualify, but there's still checks and balances. That's plenty. Anyone that says that you can't get your vote in within 2 weeks early voting.
Oh, yeah.
And now, even on voting day, you don't have to go to your precinct. You can vote anywhere.
I know.
That's huge too.
Yep.
So I mean, it's like, oh shit, we should get 2 weeks before. And it's easy, man. I mean, it was a long line and I still stayed in line and went by really quick. Look, this is voting for our leaders and people that are going to make laws, enforce laws, things of this nature. If you don't think it's important, then shit, it's not important. What are you going to do? You get what you don't want to fight for. So there needs to be nothing else than that. There's appropriate absentee voting. I think appropriate. If you're just lazy, you shouldn't send in your vote. I just don't believe that. Get in line, go vote. I mean, shit, you go to a movie? Well, shit, we don't even do that anymore. We go to Netflix. I mean, we're so lazy as a society. Go vote. Just go and vote. You have 2 weeks to do that. You have multiple sites. Go vote. You just need a driver's license. That's a bullshit argument about that. But I want to make a point about what I hope and I pray that Trump does, and I know he will. We need to strengthen our military again. We are so depleted from our reserves, from our ammunition, from our equipment. He had built up this military, and Biden's ass leaves all that equipment over across in Afghanistan, where it was.
It's about $85 billion.
$85 billion.
Munitions and weapon systems.
And then we're sending so much over to Ukraine that we're not thinking of the hometown. But you have to think about this. This is a distraction, and our home is we're vulnerable. And then our military is worried about pronouns. Get the fuck out of here with that. I'm tired of that shit. I mean, we got enough of this. We can't be afraid to talk about science. Hello, boys are boys, girls are girls. Kindergarten Cop 101 goes up to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas. No shit, Sherlock. Enough with this stuff. And we got to get away from that. Look at Tuberville's bill that George and I were talking about. And we remember we emailed. George believes it's not going to go anywhere. Where biological males cannot compete against women. What is so wrong with that? Let me answer it for you. It's a rhetorical question. Nothing. That's not political. That shouldn't be partisan. And anybody that supports a biological male, a dude with genitals, to kick the shit out of a girl in a boxing match, a combat sport, because that's my world, and MMA and jiu-jitsu and all this other, or even any sports that deprive a woman, a beautiful woman, that God designed specifically to compete. That's what Title IX, whatever it is, women to have their own sports. What do we do?
And they're in athletic facilities.
Where are the women's rights organizations? Crickets. Where are they at? What happened to? I can't believe that we even hear and that this is even a legitimate discussion. This is insane that we're even there. It tells you the rot, either the rot in our courage and that we're a bunch of wussies, or our moral compass is completely bankrupt and we need an overhaul, which we know that's true too. That we're having this discussion that women can be treated like shit. I mean, what's her name? Gaines was on Riley Gaines was on Joe Rogan. Good for her. Good for Joe to have her on, man, and to talk about that. I mean, so she ties with that dude, the male swimmer, wearing that female outfit with his balls hanging out.
Yes,
I mean,
that would be
stupid.
William Thomas.
Whatever. I mean, Thomas
calls himself Leah Thomas.
And so they tie in the end. They tie, and they say, "Sorry, Riley, he's got to have it." And then whatever edict they got from the top.
I have goosebumps just thinking about
so
that again.
I have 2 daughters. George has 3. You have 2 daughters. What are we doing here? And even if you don't have daughters, what are we doing here? I mean, we really lost our minds, right? And so that's not controversial. That shouldn't be part of the military. Sorry, it just shouldn't. No, I'm not sorry. It shouldn't. That's not. Well, we shouldn't focus on it at the very least. We're worrying about pronouns. Whenever someone sends me an email, and not that I'm an email dude, whenever my staff, they check my emails, they show me, and they have in parentheses, her, she, he, him, I don't even want to respond to them. I don't want to talk to you. If you're going to buy into that dissent, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do business with you. I don't want to talk to you. I just don't want to talk to you. That's insane to me. That's insane that someone even buys into that stuff. Now, do you show compassion? Absolutely. Do you show love and compassion? Absolutely. It's not, if someone's struggling with that or someone has that, but the vast majority of people are not struggling with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we represent people that present themselves that way, and we fight just as hard for them. Just like an ER doctor should fight just as hard for the patient that comes in. I'm talking about as a culture of a society where that becomes forced on you. If someone chooses to live their life that way, that's different. But if you're going to force it on society, that's where I draw the line. I believe in freedom. I believe in you can live the life you want to live as long as it doesn't interfere with this person and that. But not when it's forced on us to have to buy into something that's not logically consistent. And we've got to wake up and we've got to start talking about things that really matter to the safety and well-being of our country. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up. And I know it wasn't during the radio show, but that bill, that Tuberville, that obviously is not, that senator from Alabama that's apparently not going to go anywhere, is a shame for women's sports. For women's sports needs to be protected.
It's been filed a couple of times, the latest.
It's ridiculous,
in February, and it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate because the Democrats control the Senate, and they're not going to support it, which is insane. Now, if we can get control of the Senate, that's a different story. But I'm wondering if there's enough strong Republicans that would support it. Can you believe that? We're sitting here wondering whether Republicans would unify to support that. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm just wondering if you think as we get closer to the election and it looks, I mean, of course, no one can predict what's going to happen. But if it looks more and more like Trump wins, do you think instead of the benevolent dictator situation that these people that are in the swamp are going to start resigning? Because I notice like people aren't going to run anymore. People aren't going to do this. And maybe they're seeing the writing on the wall and just getting out of it before.
It's unlikely. It's unlikely, and I think I'm going to get in trouble for the benevolent dictator thing. I just have a sense that people.
I get what you're saying, though.
I hope people don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting it. I'm just looking at it as a historical reality of when things get so out of control. And I don't, in any way, shape, manner, or form, believe that Trump is dictatorial in any way. And when he made that statement, he was.
I get it.
Using hyperbole. He was being hyperbolic to make
called
it out. Point. And by the way, in the context of writing an executive order. I mean, you can and you should use executive orders very sparingly in times of true national emergencies. Not like Biden just did. He's going to write an executive order to release $300 million for Ukraine. Can you believe that? It's a work around Congress. That's not what you write our executive orders for. So that aside, no, he's going to have to go after him. I mean, there's no way. These people are entrenched. They're dumb, fat, and happy, making a ton of money, and they're, and they're obstructing the interests of the
Well, they
American
do
voter
believe
every
they're
single
above
day.
the law, and they are above the law right now.
They are, and they're nicely hidden. I mean, they're pretty much isolated from any kind of consequence or accountability. They're going to have to go after them. And like I said, Trump coming out of office in 2020, that was going to be part of his agenda in his second term. And I think somebody please look this up, Dom, because it's driving me crazy right now. I don't know if it's called Program F or Plan F or Operation F.
Does that have a U behind it?
Yeah, it should. But I think that would be more appropriate. But it was to the tune truly of tens of thousands of government workers across a number of institutions and bureaucracies that are simply sapping from the American economy and doing nothing but obstructing the work of the people.
I wanted to bring this up, and I don't want to change the subject of what you're talking about, but I don't want to forget at the same time. But if my sister knows a girl who just had $80,000 in student loans wiped off the books.
Oh, yes.
So that's happening.
And while you're saying it, thank you, Dom. Can you scroll all the way down? It's Schedule F. Go all the way down. All the way up. Sorry, I don't know why I just said that. I'm saying the exact opposite of what I mean. Protecting
Schedule
citizens
F.
from political corruption. Yeah, there you go. And that initiative, taking action to ensure what cannot be imposed by future presidents. No, I mean what they're trying to do is what the Democrats are going to try to do then is to pass legislation that basically ties the hands of presidents from being able to fire government workers at will that they deem. And I think I got that right. I think it is Schedule F.
Yeah.
And I think that was going to be part of Trump's second agenda. Yeah. I mean, he's got to get back to that. That's critical. And the Department of Education, Nico, is on that list, and that is of paramount importance. One of the reasons why I was so excited about Mark LaHood's candidacy is because he's actually talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion and going after what I think is just a malignancy in the American culture. This idea of literally filtering everything through race
ethnicity.
and embedding that in our curricula in K through 12. It's disgusting. And so I love to hear Mark talking about it. We don't hear enough of it.
With the desire to end racism, that's all you talk about. I mean, you're making young people and everybody just think of everything as ethnicity,
Which is bullshit, because what they're doing is
bullshit.
It's
man,
more
of course.
racism.
Yes.
It's racist, fundamentally racist.
If you want someone to be colorblind, quit talking about color. I mean, you can acknowledge it, of course. You celebrate everybody's differences. I think it should be celebrated. If somebody's tall, man, good for you for being tall, this, that, athletic, smart, whatever it is. We should celebrate our differences in all ethnicities. They're all God's design if you're a biblically minded person. We should celebrate different cultures and all that stuff, but not when it becomes your idol. Anything, for me as a Christian, anything that takes place of Christ being your first love is by definition an idol, including ethnicity. I don't like saying race because there's only one race, the human race, but different ethnicities. My ethnicity is Lebanese Mexican, but I'm an American. I'm not a Mexican American. I'm not a Lebanese American. I'm an American of Lebanese Mexican descent, and those are my ethnicities. But that's not my identity, and that's not who I'm. And that's what I am. It's not who I am, right? What is your being, right? That whatness is your being. I'm a human being of Lebanese.
The idea that you have to sit here and explain that to people tells you how far we've come.
Yes,
I mean, this bullshit narrative is so entrenched that I mean, you have to literally go back to basics. And it's everywhere. And you brought up the military. It's in the military, and it's carving out the military. They've been going after conservatives in the military under the current heads of the Joint Chiefs. Is it Milley? And I have no idea, Dom, why I just forgot. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. My goodness gracious,
okay.
yeah. And they've been, between Milley and Austin, I mean, they've been turning inward on conservatives in the military, driving woke initiatives. There's a report by the Heritage Foundation on U.S. military readiness, and they put it out every 10 years. And you guys got to, if you're listening, pull it up. Go to heritage.org. I think it's called U.S. Military Readiness. What is the exact name of the report? Anyway, to your point, Nico, it's called 2024 Index of U.S. military strength, the only non-governmental, only annual assessment of U.S. military strength. And if you read it, you're going to see we're in deep shit, to your point. It looks at all the branches of the military and basically says they are at an average of marginal readiness.
Man.
Marginal.
Combine that with the
And if you
border
look-
problem. That's my point.
No, precisely the point. That's exactly right. And if you look at the United States Air Force, for instance, that's actually considered weak. Can you believe that?
God.
The United States Air Force. So here's a basic summary. While the Marine Corps is still rated, quote, strong, but the Marine Corps is a small fighting unit. I mean, they're elite, but they can't be everywhere.
No.
So while the Marine Corps is still rated strong, the Army and Navy are both listed as marginal, and the Air Force and Space Force are weak.
And recruitment is so low, it's dismal, and for a reason, because nobody takes pride in this. Nobody wants to be. I mean, they're sending out videos of people transforming from their military uniform to a cross-dressing environment with very feminine features. I mean, that's not the warrior mentality. How about that? That's never been presented in the military before. And so can you imagine if we had a Hamas-style attack in the United States? Don't think couldn't happen. Would it be crazy to think that way? And then also an external attack with missiles on the ground internally, because you have cell groups here. I mean, you'd have Americans. Again, this is not crazy that I can't believe we're talking. I was talking to military. I'm not talking. I was listening to military strategists talking about this. It's true. I mean, people that have trained in the military, have served, to say, look, if I was going to attack the United States, this would be the time to do it. Yeah. They can't stand each other. There's a divide. There's a divide. They've had this invasion, this Trojan horse of newcomers, which is bullshit. They're illegal aliens in this country. We know that. We can't cut it off, and there's a division in that. Military is marginal at best. We're sending crap over to Ukraine and everybody else, and we can't even account for that money. And then can you imagine a multifaceted, a multi-phase attack on the country? Cutting off our supplies, cutting off our way of communication, our grid, actually physically attacking from within, physically attacking from the borders, and then also missile attacks strategically? You're going to tell me that you cannot foresee some crazy ass or combination of countries doing something like that? Mm-hmm. Of course you could. I mean, and how would we respond to that? Not very well, in my humble opinion. It's alarming for American citizens.
It really
Should
is.
Be, at least.
And again, who is talking about that? This is like stuff we need to get on yesterday. We don't have enough munitions. We seriously have depleted munitions because we send them all to Ukraine. We don't have enough aircraft carriers.
Oil reserves.
We don't have enough fighter planes. We simply don't have enough of what is necessary. So your point about Trump coming in and making that of paramount importance.
Border and military,
absolutely
immediately.
critical. Now, he did that already when he came in the first time.
I know.
But I mean, in Biden's tenure, I mean, he's just grotesquely depleted the United States military to the point where it's absolutely, literally.
But that's why this next election is so important. The governor made a point during this election that he needs allies in the legislature. That's why he supported Mark and other candidates that all won, by the way. And because he needs allies. He doesn't need people that say that they believe in a certain set of ideas. He doesn't need puppets. Mark's not going to be a puppet for anybody. But he needs allies, people that have shared ideas, that believe that will bless Texas, but also protect Texas from border, from this, from whatever, from schools, bad ideas. And so he needs people that share those ideas and that are going to vote a certain way, not, obviously not controlling it, but obviously they're shared ideas. And so Trump needs that also. That's why these Senate races, Ted Cruz has an opponent, which, he's been, Ted Cruz is really, he's really, I think, matured. And I don't say that condescendingly. He's comfortable in his skin. He's battle tested. He's articulate. He's intelligent. People don't like him for whatever reason. Look, but this is what we're up against. I'm going to say this as respectfully as I can, because I know Roland Gutierrez. I know him. He went to high school with my brother at Central, and he graduated 2 years ahead of me. And I like him as a person. And when he's having his interview, like, the son of a bitch Trump and son of a bitch Cruz, son of a bitch everybody. Okay, I guess. Whatever. I don't know what are you so mad about? I don't understand. What's the? If there's, I promise you, I have plenty of anger that I can face back at the ideas that your group is advocating, Roland. And I like when I want more conversation. I want more debate about your ideas. I want more Joe Rogan style, Bill Maher style conversations that you can in real time call bullshit, and I want everybody to watch. I don't want censorship. I want free speech to reign. I mean, you know, I'm almost an absolute free speech, almost. There's certain stuff that's not appropriate. I get it. But, I mean, we need these conversations because we need an educated populace. We need people that's like, man, what you're saying and what I'm seeing, don't match up. And I'm feeling something very different than when you're saying, so I'm going to call bullshit on you. And then we get to see this exchange of ideas. And then in the court of public opinion, we render a verdict. And that's in the ballot box. That's what we need. And I don't need people, I don't need the Joe Scarboroughs. I don't even need people on the conservative side. Just present the evidence. Let the jury figure it out. That's the American people. And then let us vote in the ballot box and make sure that the voting is fair. That's it. Making sure that we have specific rules in a jury trial. You can't influence the jury. You can't give them this. When they send a question, you come together. Only certain things can be said back to them. You can give them evidence. If you can give them a transcript, you can send certain stuff back to them. But the jury's got to figure it out once they've heard all the evidence, cross-examination, direct examination, closing arguments, opening statements, and the judge has allowed the evidence that needs to be put in. That's what needs to happen. And we don't have a fair jury pool here.
And we are dangerously close to being censored to the point where everything could possibly incarcerate you. The most menial of things could incarcerate you. Nick and I were texting back and forth about, well, you were on the thread, Karen. We were talking about Canada is on the verge of deliberating a law called the Online Harms Act, where you can literally, based on what you say online, certain positions that you take, if you happen to go against the grain of the popular narrative, you can literally be incarcerated. And you can be incarcerated not just for what you're saying or what you do, but what you might do or what you will do, what you're predicted to maybe do. That's insane.
So if you
that's a catch-all. That's a catch-all.
Yeah.
And of course, Trudeau is in favor of it. I really hope that there's enough sanity left in Canada. But the question is, you don't think that kind of thing can happen here? Of course it can. A Joe Biden second term will ensure it. I was remembering a conversation. I don't remember where it was, but I do know it involved the former Congressman Jack Kemp. And I know he was in a conversation with Pat Buchanan, and I don't remember the context. But it was something to the effect of, look, and they were talking about military. And this is back when Republicans constantly had to deal with the narrative that they're war hawks, right? There's never a war that they don't want to get into, which is actually the opposite of Trump. So Trump's taken the Republican Party in a very different direction. Nikki Haley is sort of one of the last remnants of that war hawk portion of the Republican Party. One of the reasons why I don't think voters like her very much. But Jack Kemp said, "Look, I'm not a hawk. I'm a dove. I'm just a well-armed dove."
Love that.
He said, and that really needs to be the spirit in which we move forward. We're not hawks. We're doves, but we're well-armed doves. That should define the American military. I think it was in the context of the American military that he was talking about the United States Marine Corps, U.S. Air Force. And we got to make sure that we constantly have the best, the strongest, the most updated American military, because the dangers that face us today are significantly more serious. And notice hardly anybody ever talks about China. It's mostly Russia and mostly Iran. Granted, understood. But China, by far, is a significant military threat, more than the other two. And there's very little talk inside the Capitol, with some exceptions.
You're describing the old adage of peace through strength, right? You have peace through strength. If you're on the schoolyard and you see this kid and you know this kid is tough and this kid wrestles, he boxes, he's playing with everybody, they're playing hopscotch or whatever they play these days, and they don't play hopscotch anymore, but whatever. And he's like, man, the bully's not going to, I don't want that kid because he's strong and he's tough. Whether I can win or not is irrelevant. So I'm going to make peace with that dude. I might pick on somebody else, but I'm not going to pick on that dude.
Yeah.
So it's peace through strength. We need to be strong. That's why we teach our kids, and I advocate your kids should be strong, dangerous, and formidable. Not just physically. Physically is part of it, but with your mind, with your logic, with your faith, with your purpose. You need to be strong, dangerous, and formidable in your discussions and everything you do in life. You need to be a formidable challenge. We used to talk about formidable challenge. We need to do that, and we're not. I mean, this wussy mentality has to go. And so in the Christian circles and conservative circles, now you can overcorrect that and be some dickhead that, bull in a China store. I'm not advocating that. That's the overcorrection. That's my point. There's temperance, there's meekness. Scripture talks about the meek will inherit the earth. And when you understand hermeneutics and the translation of meek, it's not weak. It's strong, but under control. I talk about a samurai was meek. A samurai was deadly, but he wasn't a Mongolian, right? He was under control. And when he drew the sword, heads rolled. But he was under control, chivalrous, and there's the samurai code. And so it's important to be that way. I think we do. And the country and America needs to project that strength, peace through strength, that samurai mindset. I always talk about, I give a talk, and when I do men's groups or whatever, like being a spiritual samurai. Be a samurai mindset, being strong, ready to draw that sword when it's appropriate, but under control, with a heart for Christ and serving others, loving your neighbor like yourself, and understanding service and understanding it's better to give than to receive, and all the biblical principles that we hopefully believe in. But that's what the country needs to exhibit. That we don't.
When we got rid of the draft 50, 60 years ago, whatever, that was the mentality in the average school child. I mean, there was a strong patriotic spirit. There was a drive. I remember when I was in high school, I graduated in 1986, and I remember and I went to a Mennonite high school. They were pacifists. And there were kids in there and couldn't wait to graduate and join the armed forces. I mean, there was just a general sense of patriotism, wanting to give back, and not so today.
But if the
United States
recruitment
military
is already aiming toward, transgenders, cross-dressers, or whatever, then that's what it's going to attract.
You stole my thunder. That's it.
Yeah.
I was going to say the reason that we're not meeting our recruitment requirements. That's the point. The United States military is unable to meet its recruitment requirements. And this woke cult from inside, where Nico says we're focusing on shit that has no value and has nothing to do on whether we can kill our enemies and win wars. Nothing to do with that shit.
Nothing to do with that.
I mean, it's just beyond embarrassing. It's repulsive to see the shit they're putting out. But that's how much has changed. And yet the dangers are unprecedented. I mean, we have to be able to fight a multi-front war. We have dangers in the Pacific Rim. That could go kinetic at any moment with what's going on with Taiwan. We have dangers right now in the Middle East, to say nothing about Ukraine, where we're fighting a proxy war. And then we have South, Central, and Latin America. It's on fire. And so it's never been more necessary to go kinetic at any given moment. We've never been so ill prepared. There's so much, isn't it? There's so much that sort of impinges on a successful 2024 election.
Yeah.
So much, which is one of the reasons why we do this every week.
I think this all wraps up with the question to Karen is, Karen, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
How do we fix it?
I don't know.
I want to hear from you. I'm just joking.
Yeah,
Poor
right.
Karen is stuck with our stupid
We've been
asses.
saving the best for last.
Yeah,
it's on
you
you.
No,
always hear us, blurt ideas out.
I wish I had a simple answer, but I've spent all week with my daughters for spring break, and I look at them, and just like you, I think, what kind of future is there for our kids? This cannot continue.
And you want them to enjoy the things that you
We
had,
keep hearing that
right?
it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. The budget's not sustainable. The border's not sustainable. This is not sustainable. Okay, then what do you do? It's like you're at sea. Your ship hit an iceberg. You're taking in water. This is not sustainable. What do? You patch
Fix
up the
it.
water.
Yeah.
You patch up the hole, or if it's patchable, and then you get the water out of the boat. So it's great that you acknowledge. I mean, the first step in recovery is admitting you have a problem, right? Okay, it's not sustainable. What's the fix? And then what's the practical fix? And what is your agenda with the fix? With the Democrats, it's about control. It's obvious. I mean, they think they've played their hand. They've overplayed their hand. They don't care about fixing things. They don't care about the next problem. It's the next crisis. It's control. How can I use a circumstance to gain control? I mean, that's the evidence that I've seen before me. If you show me counter evidence to that, and then I'll change my opinion. But so we really need to educate people to vote. Our verdict is to vote. The evidence needs to be portrayed to them. You need to be prepared to talk about it. Always be prepared to give an answer, right? It's a biblical concept. And then hopefully in a way that's persuasive, that convinces someone to change their course of action, which ultimately is their voice through the vote. That's it. We have to do it that way, because you're not going to yell someone into changing their mind. No. You stupid ass, you son of a bitch. Okay, there you go. I'm changing my mind. I mean, I get it.
I don't think the State of the Union Tourette's changed any hearts or minds.
That was embarrassing. That was
it was
just
fiery.
It's so stupid.
Hopefully it woke up a few people to say, ooh,
we'll see.
this is scary. What is this?
Permission to close the show,
Please,
Karen. All
wrap it up,
Wrap it. All right,
Nico.
guys. Thanks for joining us. Hope these conversations will benefit to you. You can always share them with someone that you think might benefit from it. Have a blessed week. If you're finishing up spring break, enjoy it with your family. It's kind of shitty weather, but it's okay. Enjoy it. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend.